So, showing me shaking my head and my negative nasty feel after that Buffalo game where they, all I can tell you is
Dolphins number one, baby!
Hands up, baby.
Dolphins number
Hands up.
one! I swear, if a certain quarterback is mentioned in the comments, I got my beers ready. I'm going to crack it open.
Or is it the Serbian kid?
Serbia kid,
This looks dumb. Oh my god, it looks fantastic.
I hate you so much.
no, good beat, man. Not a beat, man.
Woo!
I'm the man. I said it, and it's reality. All right,
Congratulations.
Muy buenas noches, Miami. Welcome to another edition of Fast Break, a depressed edition of Fast Break, to say the least. Another hump day. First and foremost, if you see to our right, we have one of the members of the original members of the Goon Squad, Mr. Neil Cordero, joining us today. What's up, man?
It's good, man. I'm glad to be back, man. You know, watching the intro was really cool.
Yeah, you see all the recap. You saw when we drafted Jovic.
Yes, we got Jovic, man.
That touches my heart.
Day, dude. That was a
And
good
we
day.
also have possibly joining another original member of the Goon Squad, but might be running a little bit late. He's Colombian, but he's running some Cuban time. But Mike's sidekick never misses a show. His spirit is always with us. Clutch, what's up, man?
I'm sad.
I see.
That's it.
I see. I can see your expressions. We could always see his expressions based on the pictures on his avatar there. You're sad, but you're hopeful. I see on the top left.
Yeah, you see who's on my mind right now.
I see you. And you're crying because of the current situation, but you are hopeful, and there's 0.5% chance of it happening.
I'm like that. I'm like that Alonzo Mourning gif, but where he's like shaking his head, and then he's like, "Okay,
it's okay. It's okay." And also, my man Justin is not going to be able to make it with us today. He's actually traveling, and we like to play a little game, Where in the World is Justin? So next week, he'll fill us in where he is today. So he's unable to make it due to there. But without further ado, Neil, I don't think we've had you on since before our preseason talk. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. You remember our heated battles. Obviously, me and Juan, me and Bobby, Clutch with you. What should we do? Hero, bam, that's our growth. Trade everything for Mitchell. Well, this whole season passed, and it's been the most inconsistent season in Heat history across the board, in my personal opinion. Yesterday's game was kind of the epitome of the inconsistencies of our season. So you can give me your thoughts about yesterday's game, but also your overall season thoughts from afar. What have you seen? What have you gone through this season?
I mean, for me, I think I really liked the idea of running it back with the team. You know, I thought they would be better than this. I think inconsistent is a great word to describe them. But I think as the season waned on, especially after the All-Star break, when it appeared the wheels really came off, I kind of felt that some of the pieces on this team had maxed out their potential, and we really need to upgrade some of the role players here. I wouldn't say everybody, but there are a couple of people that I think it's definitely time to upgrade from. I think the bad contracts that we had, you know, that reared its ugly head for sure. And I think we all knew that wasn't going to be very positive, and it could have a really bad effect on everything. And it definitely did. And you saw that last night when you got $90 million just sitting there on the bench, not contributing anything.
And not hitting 3-point shots, which is what we paid him to do.
Exactly. I mean, it's just really unfortunate. I think maybe that's what it is. It's just the season was really unfortunate. Like, as a Heat fan, you know that this is a really good organization, and they generally make really good decisions. And you started to see some of the decisions that they did make, the
Yeah.
decisions they made that weren't good, just really have a huge effect on everything down the stretch.
And to piggyback off that, Clutch, and I'll swing it to you because I understand. I mean, I watched yesterday's game with my son, and from the moment the game started, I didn't like the disposition, the physicality that they were not showing, and you kind of see it off the bat, and which is the blessing of a play-in tournament. It's a pretty cool concept, but it also shows you like this season we were fucking around and lost some games that we should have won. And part of my language, but it's true, and that basically cost you the 6th seed. You matched perfectly with Philadelphia. You secure that 6th seed. You're not even in the brink of not making the playoffs. We are one bad game away, most likely, from not even making the playoffs. So at this point, we don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. And I'll ask you guys that later in the show. What do you prefer that we do? But in the spirit of fairness, Clutch, your reflections on yesterday's game.
You kind of said it. To start, it kind of felt weird. Like,
Okay.
I was hopeful like the first like minute or so because Jimmy seemed to like be carrying the team again. So I was like, okay, it's another Jimmy. He's gonna carry the team on his back, but we're gonna win. It's gonna be like he's gonna score like 30, 40, we'll be fine. But he kind of just after that first quarter, I mean, there was a point where he was like 3 for 12, 3 for 14, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was over. I mean, I don't know. We're probably going to get more into this about Bam.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to put all of the blame on him, but he has to have some blame on him because first, early in the game, he didn't do anything offensively. And then later in the game, it was just offensive rebound, offensive rebound, offensive rebound, offensive rebound. And you can put that on some of the coaching schemes and you can put that on Bam. And I'm putting it on both, but it was just, yeah, it's a miserable game to watch yesterday. I kind of like looped out of it after like the third quarter.
Yeah, and when you mentioned it's funny because me and Neil were talking about it pre-show before you came on, and there's something that is baffling to me in regards to and first let's give credit where credit's due. We talked about this too. Quinn Snyder came out with a great master plan. It was basically remove Bam completely and all the triggers from their offensive side of the ball for Miami Heat. And they were more physical than us, so they knew that they had to match and exceed our physicality if they were going to win in Miami. Yeah. And they came out of the bat, they punched us right in the mouth, and we could never recover. I mean, we got close, and some of those ineffectiveness, what really triggered me yesterday was how many missed layups we had. Like, it came down to missed layups, point blank layups, and offensive rebounding. We got out rebounded, I think, by 25 or 26 or something like that. You're not going to win a professional basketball game being out rebounded like that. And Bam, to the credit, he truly came out with a stat. Bam was the one that's leading the box outs. So it wasn't a question. It wasn't effort per se, even though when teams get out rebounded, a lot of times it's placed directly on effort. I will say partially, but it was really more misassignments, this overhelp on defense, which is one thing to me that has always triggered me. I love Spo's schemes defensively, but this overhelping is just a product of you having worse defenders and smaller defenders out on the floor because they sometimes extend that overhelp, which always leads to an easy basket or a long rebound. And then it puts Bam in a position where we've talked about this before. He's doing everything on defense. And it's exhausting to the point. I understand he wasn't as assertive as on offense yesterday. And when you're a superstar, and I believe this is the next step of his progression, is him demanding the ball, not seeing how he can get the ball. Because he was very assertive early this year. And my only problem when I see the cohesiveness of this team, we got three players in reality where Hero, Bam, and Jimmy were all averaging close to 20 points. And on any given team, that's a winning formula. So what Neil touched upon is the role players that kind of maxed out their stay. It's insane how we have Victor Oladipo in our lineup. We were missing defense yesterday, on-ball defense, and Vic probably didn't play much. He's out of the rotation. So we couldn't knock down shots. Duncan Roberts is sitting on the bench, making $90 million. He doesn't even get in the game. You don't play Cody Zeller next to Bam. When you're being out-rebounded every other possession with a big front court lineup that the Hawks have with Capella, and I forgot the other kid's last name, number 17, Okawenge or whatever, John Collins, Okongwe. You see, those are things that you have to battle size at times or with quickness, and then you just felt out of place that you always were scrambling. You knew we will make runs, but they found a way to stop it and prolong it. And look, first, G-Man, the Heat team isn't any good. They look old. Hawk looks faster and more athletic. Time to blow up the Heat and start over. There you see, that's a little bit of you don't have to blow everything up. There's going to be some changes, and I'm going to bring you up the big caboose. Those are 2 points, and I'll swing it to you, Neil.
Yeah.
No matter what happens in this play-in, and you tell me honestly which team you prefer, no matter what happens in this playoff, there's going to be changes to this roster. This is not a roster that Pat Riley's going to sit another year and be comfortable with. There's decision that has to be made with Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. I believe they're not going to get extensions, and if they are, they're going to be very team-friendly. So don't expect big money extensions. Omer might get a 1-year minimum deal or something close to that as more presence. Cody Zeller might be something like that. But in reality, there's going to be wholesome changes, I believe, when it comes to taller front court players, more athletic, just like G-Man said. We are missing. We should be, ideally, with the defense that we place, we should be a fast break team. We should be a transition team because that's when we are at our best. And Kyle Lowry basically gave you the game yesterday that you expected from Kyle Lowry in every blue moon, because that's what Kyle Lowry can do in spurts every so often, and that's what you expect from him, and that's what we needed from him. What surprises me is that we are finally going into a playoff, still in the play-in, with the team relatively healthy. We've never had this before, so that's on our end. But then we can get on the same page. So we got a game Friday, depending who wins, Bulls and Raptors. Is there a point to this game, Neil, for you, or which opponent do you prefer? Base case scenario for you.
For me, I prefer the Raptors. And the reason why I prefer the Raptors is because, first of all, I think you could say right now that, there's something going on in the Miami Heat locker room. There's definitely an effort issue, I think. But there's way more of that going on in the Toronto locker room. I mean, you've got the whole Nick Nurse thing going on where it's like, do you even really want to be there? And do the players really want to play for Nick Nurse anymore? Because they know he kind of doesn't want to be there. He's like halfway into Houston already at this point, So, I mean, I think that the Raptors might not play very hard in Miami, but they play much better at home generally. And if they were to come to Miami with all of that drama going on, and that team has underperformed mightily this year, in large part because a lot of the controversy surrounding the head coach and the team construction and things like that. So I would rather play them because there isn't a player on that team that has been very consistent this year. And they haven't been able to consistently put together. They're not a hot team right now. They're pretty much the opposite. They're coming in like a wounded animal,
Yeah.
And so I would rather play that team. Chicago is the complete opposite. Okay. Like they got really hot after the All-Star break, and DeMar DeRozan is as consistent as it gets. The guy
is a heat killer. He's a heat killer, bro.
He's a heat killer, but so is Vooch. Vucevic is a heat killer too, And I mean, I just don't want to play Chicago because they're not going to come in here and be afraid of us. Nobody should be afraid of us. They're not going to be. And if they get consistent play from DeMar, which they're going to get, he's going to stabilize them in situations where we're going on runs. And Vooch is going to dominate us on the boards. You know what I mean? They've got really good perimeter defenders. They've like Caruso could do a pretty good, decent job of guarding Jimmy on the wing. I mean, I wouldn't say obviously Caruso's not as good as Jimmy. Don't get me wrong, but
of course,
as a defender, a wing defender, he's pretty decent. So Chicago really worries me. I don't think we can beat them. I think we could probably beat Toronto, but I wouldn't favor us in either of those matchups if we put on the same performance that we put on last night either.
At all. And there's funny one thing. I'll make sure it's like if you don't want to play Chicago, you don't want to play Milwaukee. Thank you for this listener, which I don't know, 23423. Robot, cool. G-Man, before I go to you, Clutch, might be time for Riley and Greer to go. Riley only because of age. His track record speaks for itself. Greer's awful and should have been fired long ago. There's a transition period for the Heat front office too. And trust me, in the Heat front office, Adam Simon's voice is really loud. Eric Spoelstra's voice is really loud. Obviously, the ultimate decision is still Pat's, but it's more of a cohesive effort. So they're all in this together. They are all in this mess because they decided to be in this mess, and it's part of the growth, and it's part of – there's going to be decision-making that last year, that like Neil said, I was okay with. I wasn't going to trade the farm for Mitchell or Durant because I felt that with this team we had enough. And I felt that this year I would see growth in Hero. I have. Defensively, we always know he's not going to be an all-NBA defender, but offensively, his game is well-rounded for this team to complement. I've seen a regression in how they complement each other with Jimmy and with Bam. So I did see Bam's growth as well. A little regression when it came to his assertiveness. And that's one thing that I believe they will try to address this offseason is obviously if they continue this duel together, which there's no way that I see them breaking it apart, at least with Jimmy and Bam, you have to find a way that Jimmy is assertive offensively, but Bam continues that ascension too. That has to be cohesive across the board for you to improve or for you to win and be a productive team, not only regular season, but in the playoffs. Even with playoff Jimmy, you still need dominant Bam. Clutch, I'll ask you because Neil, I kind of wanted to play Chicago, but every point Neil just hit kind of swayed me the opposite way. And I do believe with an easier game against Toronto. Either way, we're 1-6 against these teams. So we haven't played winning basketball. Toronto's size disrupts us, their quickness, their athleticism. But like you said, they haven't been playing up to par. Out of all these teams, Chicago has the most to lose, honestly, because Chicago is a team that's in the brink of possibly blowing it up. Because Vucevic is going to be a free agent. They might not give him a long term. Or do you trade DeRozan? Do you build around Levine? There's a bunch of situations going on. So, Clutch, who do you feel will be the best matchup? Is it even worth it if we're going to face Milwaukee? Because with our luck, with the Heat, how inconsistent they've been, we beat this team and then we sweep Milwaukee. No, not going to happen. But is this even worth it for us, bro?
Okay, so as we're talking right now, by the way, the Raptors are up by 11 on the Bulls at halftime.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Looks like
okay.
Neil's like prediction, or he would rather face the Raptors, might come true. Is leaning that direction right now. But personally, what's the prize for winning this game? It's getting swept by the Bucks.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the big prize. And
well, knowing us, we'll take 1 or 2 games and then we extend the season for no reason.
I thought we would take 1 or 2 games in 2021.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just trying not to sound too like unanalytical, but either way, we're fucked.
Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
I kind of like. I don't know what I want from this team because I'm always about let's win no matter what. Go for the win. That's good karma and stuff like that. But I don't know if I can mentally take another series, a playoff series this year after the whole season that followed. So I don't care who we play because I'm honestly just tired. But either way, the Raptors, they got the size and the length to bother us on the offensive boards, and Chicago has the all-stars that can go off in any moment. They have DeMar, who doesn't miss from mid-range, and Vucevic, who's been our nightmare for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, either way, we're kind of done there. I mean, the thing about the second play-in game for the 8th seed is weird because the team that lost the 7th seed game is coming off a loss, and the team that won the 9-10 is coming off a win, so they have the momentum there. Yep. We have the home court advantage, but it's still kind of weird because the team, the 9-10 team, has the momentum coming into the game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Heat wanted. That's weird to say, but I don't know if the Heat wanted because
That's
Spo, Jimmy, and all those guys, they want to win, but you know how just like energy just got sucked out of you by losing to the Hawks.
yeah, and
If you beat the
even
Hawks, maybe you're energized. You can give the Celtics some trouble, but it didn't happen. The energy got sucked out of the building. You got beat on your own home court, and I don't know how this team comes out with any energy for this next game.
no, and like I said, look, just with our luck alone, the Heat are competitors. Honestly, to me, if this was scripted, you come out, you battle all the way, you lose last second shot, whatever, and you just go into the offseason and you go and you start working. Because basically winning this seed game, obviously, we're competitors. And we talked about always winning no matter what. But even a competitor knows you're never going to admit defeat, but you know what you're going up against. We're possibly going against the worst matchup for us. Even the Cavaliers were a bad matchup, but they were younger. You're going against a two-time MVP, league champ, and you're going against size, which is your Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Because Milwaukee has Brook Lopez, Giannis, and Chris Middleton, all above 6'9", 6'8". We have one person above 6'9" that can dominate down low. So we're going to be completely demolished unless they play Cody and all that. And once again, even you extend that, it's so crazy to me because if I can tell you, okay, the Heat went into a bad run, we lost a few games, we'll put it together, we'll push through. When it comes playoff time, we're going to turn it on. But this team has been inconsistent from the beginning of the year, and they've been inconsistent even now into the play-in. That's not a hiccup. That's not a bad stretch. That's your identity. And it's been inconsistency, and we've seen it where they correct their mistakes, and past teams before have corrected their mistakes and gone on the stretch where they win 5 to 6. They might lose 2 or 3, but then they win another 6 in a row. But this team, psychologically, mentally, physically, they seem to be not engaged after these games. They'll go out and perform, and you're like, wow, that's the Heat team we're talking about. And then they go out the next game completely lay an egg. And I don't think that's doable in the playoffs. I don't think, like you mentioned, and you hit a good point there, I don't think they want it. I don't believe there's a lot of personnel in this team that looks like it's not cohesive. That doesn't mean they don't get along. They like each other, but I see a disconnect on the floor. This is just me, my coaching eyes. I see a disconnect, for example, with Butler and Bam at times in certain key points of the game. And they even made fun of the other day in 5 Reasons. They were talking about how Jimmy only assists Bam for so many percentages, blah, blah, blah. And then the next game, Jimmy literally went out of his way just to assist Bam's buckets. And they played to their identity. And I'm just like, I don't understand how this season has gone from not being able to flip that switch and be consistent. And I understand shots not falling, your 3-point percentage was down. We've had some injuries, but we are I believe it or not, we are at our healthiest point right now. And yesterday, I'll throw this. What do you think could have happened differently yesterday, Neil, in regards to possible matchup? Because we talked about this, and you mentioned this. Spo is one of the best coaches of all times, and he's one of the best in-game adjustment coaches of all time. Second half adjustments are always masterful, and you saw that when they came with Hero and they started attacking Hero. And I knew they were going to switch Young off of Hero, but we took advantage as much as we had him. Then obviously they put Murray on him, and that shuts him down. What do you feel could have been done differently, if anything, yesterday? Or it was just a barrage that we were never going to be able to survive?
Well, I think once Spo realized that we weren't going to be very efficient from 3 or really in the paint because their size and length was bothering us, we should have just got bigger. And I actually, it's weird because the one time we had Cody Zeller in the game, he actually got like 3 rebounds in a row.
Yes.
That shot. I was kind of like, all right, okay, we're getting some offensive rebounds finally. And then he like disappeared. And I was like, well, why? And I understand the hesitancy to want to leave Zeller in the game long term. I mean, yeah, like, it's Cody Zeller. You're not going to get a lot offensively. But I think at that point in the game, we were still in the game. It wasn't a large deficit. And if we could have just stopped them from getting so many offensive rebounds and second chance buckets, because I mean they were getting so many second chance buckets and just took that 5-point lead and just it ballooned. And it was all because of their second chance shot attempts.
That's
It
it.
was
That's
more
it.
than that. It was nothing
And
more
miss
than that.
layups.
They were still missing shots. I mean, Trae Young was shooting from the logo and he was missing. They would just get the rebound. And it was like, that needed to stop. So I think you needed to have gotten Zeller in the game, and if not him, then maybe try Kevin Love a little bit, although he isn't who he once was, obviously. But
at all.
It just, that kind of frustrated me a little bit that he was just going to stick to the same guys because, dude, Strus couldn't hit, anything. And I think you got to pull the plug on that. If you see it, you got to pull the plug on it. After the first couple quarters, I would have just sat him. I mean, it was clear it wasn't happening. Victor obviously has had a really bad season, but could it have been worse, than Strus? I don't know. I mean, he's healthy, he's a better defender.
I felt we could have used his defense yesterday in spurts.
I don't know. Like, I just, I know that he's never going to be who he once was. And if we get to the point in the show, we talk about who should move on from, he's definitely one of them. That experiment is over. But I think he should have been in the game more than Max Strus, I don't have any issue with leaving Duncan on the bench. That's where he belongs. It's just not worth it, But yeah, I really think should have had some more size to try to get some of these rebounds, to keep it in the single digits. I totally agree with Clutch at halfway through the third quarter when, all of our momentum was gone. The game was over.
Was
and
gone.
It was kind of like, well, I don't know. It's not even worth watching. I did. I just sat there and kind of.
Yeah. Good. You're always waiting for the next push.
That's the biggest problem with this team is that they just aren't efficient anymore. And if you're not going to be efficient, then you need to be able to have some size, to get some points in the paint. But we don't have that either. So
what's insane that, and I'm surprised that they haven't done it. There's a lot of Tyler Hero, Max Strus lineups, and we talked about it before in Clutch. I'm gonna bring you in on this one because me and you have had discussions forever on this topic. One thing that I think of Duncan Robinson, the plus, obviously the negative is his defense. I get that. We all get that. But at this point, if Max Strus is not giving me anything defensively, one thing that is underrated is Duncan Robinson moving without the ball. And obviously Max Strus took over his role. But Duncan Robinson is still one of the best handoffs with Bam. That high pick and roll handoff basket. Bam loves playing with Duncan Robinson. And Duncan still, which is insane to me, and we've gone away from it. And our offense flourished when Duncan Robinson was playing and he was spacing because he still has that gravitational pull. People have to follow Duncan. And it opens up. Even if he's not hitting, even if he's not shooting, he's opening up lanes by default, which is something that, to me, when I saw that yesterday, and someone tweeted, I'm like, the only way this just shooting wall is going to go off, just play Duncan for a little bit. Just put him out there. If it doesn't work, you remove it. Because like you said, what's the worst that can happen? Everybody was flat. No shots were going in. Vic came in for a while. But think about this. We lost to the Hawks, and they missed 11 free throws. They shot like 50-something% from free throw. They only shot 24 or 25% from the three-point line. And we got out-rebounded. I believe they had over 20 offensive rebounds.
We did.
And in one sequence alone, I think there was 4 offensive rebounds.
It was crazy.
And that part is aggravating because that part, Bam missed a dump. Vincent gave him a little pocket pass, and Bam missed the layup. It was contested, but it wasn't highly contested. Bam misses the layup, and on the other end, the team gives up 4 offensive rebounds. I'm like, that's part effort, part scheme, part personnel. And I don't know, honestly, even depending on who the matchup is, I would like to see Cody and Bam play a little bit more together because I feel Cody is athletic enough to cover more ground than Kevin, because Kevin Love offered you shooting, but if he's not nailing those down, Kevin Love will give you rebounding, but defensively, you have to change everything schematically. And then you have Bam covering more up front, switching even more. You have to play more drop coverage. So it puts you in a bad position, reality. But Clutch, I'll bring it to you. Worst case scenario, obviously. Well, it could be worst case or best case scenario. We lose the last playing game. Season's done. We can take a deep breath. That's it. We're done. There are role players. I believe Vic, I'll check, but I believe Vic has a PO in his contract where he picks up. Is it a player option or I believe it's a player option? I'll check now. I'll verify that.
It's a player option.
He has a player option, but he could be traded. So he's gonna opt into that contract for sure. So we got to work with that. If we're gonna move Vic, it has to be via trade, part of a package deal, 3 or 14 deal probably. Who knows? Kyle Lowry played where you can kind of see his stock went up a little bit. If he plays again like he played now, there will be a team that might bite on him. Maybe even like Dallas, New Orleans, because it's an expiring deal. We might have to take on extra money or not give us much compensation. I highly doubt we'll go into next year with Kyle Lowry still on the roster. It is a possibility, but I highly doubt it. I don't see Max Strus long term here. I don't see Gabe long term because realistically, just on player development next year, depending on obviously what moves are made or whatnot, I still see Jamal Cain being a rotational player, Nikola Jovic being a rotational player. He might not be starting, but I believe Nikola is going to get minutes next year because he's just so talented. And he's kind of like what we missed all year. You just wish he wasn't a rookie this year because he's what we've missed all year. Athletic-wise, bucket getter, et cetera, et cetera. The point guard that I can never pronounce his last name, Clutch. Demir Bouye. I love that kid. And I believe he will be the backup point guard. So Gabe Vincent might be out. Realistically, I don't believe they'll move any Butler or Bam. Tyler, obviously, still your number one option, depending on the pick. If we get into the lottery, there's a 0.5% chance of us getting Wembayama. So I'll send it to you. That is the ultimate basketball gods rewarding us for doing the right thing and playing competitive basketball. And this season has been so hard, so difficult. And you can see it on Spo's face. I've never seen Spo so drained. And I'm talking about this is a championship coach going through the trenches with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. I have never seen Spo so drained physically, mentally. You just see it in his eyes. And Pat too. Pat is kind of like more the sign of like, I knew this shit was gonna happen. You kind of have that feeling that Pat is like, you can tell Pat is looking around. I was like, I told you guys. That's kind of the feel that I get because like, oh, you young guns want to run this? Okay, let me do this my way. That's the feeling I get from this. But if the basketball guys don't reward us with Wembayama or a top 2 pick, because I believe we can move up to 2, right? Top 2.
We can move up to 4. Top 4. I think there's a 3% chance of top 4 when you have the 14th pick.
Okay, so if we don't get 4th, obviously it's 14.
Yeah, the lottery. I think the lottery, the first they have like 2 lotteries, and the first one is to get into the top 4, and then the second one is for the first overall pick.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so at least even whatever the case may be, that pick we might not even use, depending if it's high enough. Of course, you're going to use it, but we might not even use it. Might be trade bait. I'm not one of these big trade everything because I do like what I see in Tyler, Bam, and Jimmy. What I don't like is the surrounding cast. So this is still early, and next week's show we'll probably do this if we're eliminated or we have to wait it out until we lose to the Bucks, whatever the case may be. Watch them beat the Bucks, and we're talking shit, and that's not gonna happen. Let's not even bring it up. Okay, your scenario. What are you willing to do this offseason? What core piece are you keeping, or is everything on the table for you, Clutch?
I'm the exact opposite of you. I love trade everything. Trade move.
Trade everything. I love it. We just said that.
Let me quantify this by saying not Jimmy or Bam.
Okay, so those are off limits to you, Jimmy and Bam.
I don't think honestly like he's been better. He's made a small leap, but I don't think Tyler deserves to be part of the big 3 as of right now.
Okay.
I don't think he's earned it. I think he's been way too inconsistent, and not showing up in the big moments, which is weird because he has a high 4-quarter stat
Yeah,
or whatever.
he has a
But
clutch team. Yeah.
when I mean big moment, I mean big game.
Okay.
As in, for example, yesterday he
Uh-huh.
kind of went MIA after a bit. So everybody not named Jimmy and Bam, and then I know, but you kind of give me PTSD when you bring up these names. With obviously they're solid guys, Kane, Bouye, and all that, because it's just replacing undrafted players with other undrafted players.
Oh yeah, but
And
that's gonna be
I'm just one of those fans that's tired of this undrafted player experiment
yeah,
because they turn out to be amazing for like a year, and then they show why they were undrafted.
yeah.
And let me just go into this real quick. I'm sick of Max Strus. I'm sick of him.
Same
I
here.
think if your role players can't play their roles, if your specialists can't specialize, what are they doing out there? So
Hmm.
I would have kicked the tires on Duncan because
Yes.
he couldn't have been any worse than Max Strus was.
Nothing. He could
And
have been any worse.
at the very least, Duncan is taller and a little bit longer, so he could have rebounded a little bit, helped on that end. But I am sick of I'm sick of Max Strus. I I'm not as sick, but I'm still sick of Gabe Vincent
Hmm.
because he just seems like he'll play good games, and again in the big game he's that role player that you need to make the open shot, and he doesn't. Like yesterday, we were down by 5 late in the fourth. We like brought it back, and he had a wide open three to cut it to like 1 or 2, and missed a big moment. Like I'm sick of stuff like that. Like I miss the days of when we brought on shooters. You can go all the way back to like to the 2000s with Jason Capono, Mike
Yep.
Miller. Then go to Mike Miller, Ray Allen. Those real veteran shooters
Hmm.
instead of the undrafted guys. And you could have used that. You could have used he was on the buyout market. Maybe you could have used the Danny Green
Hmm.
veteran who's made the shots in the finals. Guys like that. And yeah, so you kind of give me PTSD when you talk about these undrafted guys
No,
because they'll
they're just
play
not in the
well
same mold. They're not in the
until
same
it's time
mold.
to get paid. And then
Yeah.
they get paid, and then they're overpaid by the end of the following year because they sucked. It
Oh yeah.
happened
Oh
with it happened with Hassan. It's happening with Duncan,
yeah. Hmm.
and if we pay, which would be the biggest I think it'd be a bigger mistake than Dion Waiters and James Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Uh, if we pay Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, they're
No,
just gonna be automatically overpaid no matter what they make.
I don't feel. I don't feel that they'll get any contract extension with
Yeah,
us. Realistically, the reason I bring up Kane is because Kane is a straight up baller,
no, he's
and
good. He played really
he's
well in that last game too.
exactly, and it's a different role. Kane won't be the Max Strus role where he's a
But
shooting guard. No, no,
I would
Kane.
like to shrink down the number of 9 undrafted players on the roster to maybe
Oh
like two
no,
or
no,
three.
absolutely, absolutely. I believe. I
9
believe
is an
next
absurd
year.
number.
I believe next year. No, it is. It is, and part of your rotation. That's insane. I believe next year we'll possibly have 3 undrafted or 4 undrafted players on roster. In my opinion, because we never know who we find this year. But it could probably be a two-way contract or not, because you can argue that you should keep Orlando Robinson, undrafted player, a pretty solid rebound. You can argue that he would have helped yesterday in the rebounding department. Omer is iffy because if they haven't figured out by now, and I was a big Omer guy, I know injuries derailed the beginning of this year. I would have liked to see what it would have been because I feel it could have been kind of like a replica of the Myers Leonard and Bam situation. Maybe not Kelly Olynyk, and you can argue that Kelly Olynyk has been the best running mate that Bam Adebayo's had in the front
Yeah,
court,
I,
even with Jay
I
Crowder.
sucks that we let Kelly Olynyk
I
go.
will I will debate that with PJ Tucker.
Yo, okay, okay, yeah, yeah. It's.
I
I mean,
think PJ Tucker was a better running mate, and I think yeah, but
and, and
that's
you
kind
kind
of
of
me
saw
not
we were
liking
missing
Kenny
PJ
Olynyk that
Tucker
much. But
yesterday.
yeah,
I look, and I agree 100% with the move of bringing Caleb back over PJ. But yesterday's game was the exact representation of what you missed in PJ.
But I'm also
It,
done with Caleb Martin too. I'm pretty done with Caleb Martin.
you done with Caleb?
I'm done with Caleb.
Oh man, and Caleb has been one of
For
our
me,
most consistent this year.
me,
Yeah, but Neil might be onto something because Caleb might be like
That's
that
it.
guy
He peaked.
that you can sell high on. He's on a high note,
Exactly. And he has a good contract.
yeah,
and
He
that's
might be
something
a
we haven't
throw-in.
done. We haven't sold on a high note.
yeah. We got to
He
get
might be a
something
throw-in.
Caleb now because next year it's not going to be good. Caleb is not going to do this next
You
year.
know what I would try to do if you're gonna trade Hero, I do expect them trying to package Caleb, Vic. They'll try to keep Caleb, but they could probably package him. And can you imagine all these moves are made in Kyle Lowry's still on the roster? We trade everybody. I mean, it's an expiring deal, so it's okay. Whatever. That's it. This is the last year. But like, do you waste another year? But the undrafted players. This is my prediction. Kane will be on the roster, and Bouger. Did I say it right this time?
Boo yay!
Bouye.
Bouye.
Yeah.
It's like
Bouye.
boo and then yay. Just put them.
Yay. Okay, gotcha. I'm gonna say it just like that too, like boo, yay. Boo yay will be on the roster. Kane will be on the roster. I do feel Orlando Robinson will be on the roster. So that's 3. Robinson might be on the move, but he's still an undrafted free agent, so that's counted as 1. Omer, I wouldn't be surprised not for like depth, but he might not be. But I do expect more athleticism, more renowned names. On the trade market, this is fun to me, and I'm just going to throw this out there because this is just new. I want to see how the Clippers do because I do believe that we might be able to flip Lowry for a Paul George. And this is just a scenario that I throw out there. Paul George is a scorer, and I think he'll play pretty decent next to Jimmy. I don't think they'll move Kawhi. I still think there's some pieces with Kyrie and D'Angelo Russell where they're going to be moved if they don't sign long-term where they are. Obviously, the talk of the town is Dame. How do you feel about? I'll throw that one to you, Neil. How do you feel about Damian Lillard?
I mean, I think Damian Lillard would be a great addition. We need to get more size. You know what I mean? Other than that, but if we can get Damian Lillard and get some size going, I think that'd be awesome. I will say this about Damian Lillard. Does it take away from Jimmy and what he does well? Because Damian, he needs the ball in his hands, man. If Damian Lillard is going to dominate the ball, what is Jimmy doing? He's not a spotter.
That's the thing.
I mean, I guess he could slash, kind of like what Dwayne Wade used to be.
Yeah.
So maybe he could become
I feel
more.
they'll compliment. And Jimmy's good at adjusting his playing style because then Jimmy can really focus on the wings, defense, rebounding. He doesn't really need to be and Jimmy can still get your bucket.
He would be a great point guard for us too. Like we haven't had a point guard like that. You know what I mean? Like in a very long time, if ever.
In a very long time. Yeah.
So I think that would be really good for the team. And so Dame would be your number 1 option. Jimmy would be your number 2. Bam would be your 3. And you just transition Hero into being a number 4, even though he's a max player.
Oh, no, but.
Oh, no, I think Hero would be in Portland.
He's part of
it.
Oh,
you're right. Yeah, we have
We
have to shut Hero off. I mean, listen, maybe Portland wants to do that. That's not bad. I would totally be down for that. I'm not a big Hero hater. You know what I mean? I agree with Clutch in this respect with Hero. All right, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze for sure. I mean, you're paying too much money for what you're getting for him. I know he improved, but he wasn't worth that. But I mean, I still think he, is an asset to the team as it is. Now, if you can get better by trading him, fine. Yeah, let's do it. But I'm not going to be upset if our core is Hero, Bam, and Jimmy.
I'm not.
Better role players than Strus, Gabe Vincent. I mean,
you can argue that if there was no regression, this team still was top 4 in the East, even with their struggles, because we were tinkering.
Was hidden and it was coming. That's the problem. I think that when and Clutch is right about this. It was great to have that story of having all these undrafted players. But
it catches up to you.
The problem with people who, aren't used to being the guy, used to being in the spotlight, eventually they're just happy to be there. You know what I mean? Because they never expected to be the guy. So they're kind of used to not being the guy. So, yeah, they exceed expectations a couple of times. And after a while, they just fall back into their old role because that's just they've been most of their lives.
They just peak, like they don't grow more. They have no. That's part of the reason you're undrafted. There's some. It's not that they missed out completely, because some scouts might get it wrong, but you don't go undrafted like Clutch said for no reason, and you might have just peaked. And what I think the point is that Clutch hit on the nail on the head is the fact that it is the amount of undrafted players we had,
Yeah.
and the fact that we relied on them, even though they were effective at times. The fact that everything was relied upon them at a certain point, because you can have one or two undrafted players as part of a 10-man rotation, maybe one, but you can't have 4, 5, 6 at times at any given moment. So those are situations, and not don't get me wrong, we can talk about undrafted players and top picks that have been bust. So players develop, players improve, but there's a certain peak. There's a certain balance that your team needs. And honestly, this team was not tall. They're not as athletic as they were. So you can have that. You can have a specialist if you have every other area covered. But if every other area you need to be athletic and fast is unathletic and slow,
Yeah.
you're not going to win a basketball game, because
You know,
the way the
it
NBA is right now, they're just shooting you out of the gym. You can't catch up. You can catch a break on a few games, but you can't. So I do agree with you guys there. The number of undrafted players has to go down. The cohesiveness of this team has to improve. Over because it's not only about shooting anymore. You need defensive players. There's not a lot of players in this team that can play defense, and the ones that can play defense are either broken down or they're not getting any minutes. You know, so
I want to talk about Bradley Beal for a second, because
okay,
I think shockingly, Bradley Beal's only 29. All right.
yeah,
It seems like
you would think he's
a lot
like
older
34
than that.
years old already.
It feels like he's 34 already, but he's only 29. And I really feel like Bradley Beal is a part of the reason why we are in this situation, because I think this team thought they were going to get Bradley Beal like 3 years ago. Okay.
And Donovan.
And
Last year they thought Donovan.
And those guys just kept staying on their.
They didn't put Hero on the table for Donovan, which is stupid.
Dude, I know we should definitely put Hero on the table. I was smashing the table for that.
No, but didn't they do Clutch? What was the final offer? Wasn't Hero part of the package? It was just the fact that the holdup was the picks, the amount of picks.
No, I saw a report, I think recently, that Hero was never on the table.
So who were we offering?
I don't remember what I saw with the picks.
Lowry, Jovic, first round picks.
Probably something like that. Yeah.
Bradley Beal would be a good addition to this team. Okay. And I see
I feel that
over there. You know, he's the one that made me think about it. You know, I think Bradley Beal would fit.
I feel that move is like 3 years too late. Like we've had so much Bradley Beal talk that at this point, like, it's funny because we're talking about this, right? Last year we were in the same situation after the Celtics game. We had no clue Kevin Durant was going to demand a trade. We had no clue Donovan Mitchell was going to demand a trade. Yeah. So this could all change in a matter of 2 months, a month and a half or 2 months. So this is the fun part. Like, we're regular fans. We're going to be upset. We're going to be depressed. Then we're going to get our hopes up. We're going to see some moves in the offseason. But I do believe that there will be changes. I don't expect wholesale changes, but I would not be surprised if they are, like Clutch said, and everybody's on the table. I don't think Bam will be on the table. Maybe for the right move, but I highly doubt they'll move Bam. For sure, I don't think they move Jimmy. And he's your best asset. I would expect, I hope, this summer that somehow we can keep Jovic. I really like Jovic. I do see great things with him.
It's too early on
but people might be enticed. Me, in my opinion, this year, depending on the pick I get, I either use that pick in the move or I use Jovic. I'm not using both. I'll try to maneuver around.
If Portland wants Jovic, I'm sorry, I like him, but yeah, he can go.
Oh no, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, if they're willing to trade us Damian Lillard, yeah, see you later. But
I'm trading Jovic.
Outside of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to hold on to that kid.
You're not going to trade Jovic for a high-end role player. You're going to include him as a sweetener in a trade for an all-star.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, because Lillard, Butler, and Bam would be a really good core, and I think you could get some free agents to come play with them, and you could upgrade your role players that way. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, look, I really think that would be a solid team. I'd be really
And
excited about next season.
there's free agents available. I'm obviously I'm just throwing it in, but there's Christian Wood. There's tall wing players and rebounders available that
Hey,
if you
Christian
acquire,
Wood, you can get him for a decent price now. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you wouldn't have been
And
able to say that before.
It's funny because Kelly's going to be a free agent again, I believe. Kelly doesn't have any, so there's a lot of options this year.
Vooch is a free agent. I think you can get
That's
him.
another thing. That's another situation there. So there's many ways. That's why we're not cornered. People, a lot of people, obviously from the outside. Oh my God, the heater. We're not in a desperate situation. We're just in a let's gather. We're right now in the gathering information, and we have to make decisions. Part of the deal, because you are going to make an altering, a franchise altering move this season. I do believe.
Yeah.
This year will be. Last year was a transition and a growth period, and we're like, let's see if this team could actually win together. This year kind of signified like, okay, I know what I have in Hero, I know what I got in Jimmy, I know what I have in Bam potentially, I know what I don't have in my core. I don't have anything from 5 to sustainable, from 5 to 12. I don't have anything sustainable really. That's all interchangeable. So they kind of have an idea whether we blow up part of this top 3, whether we just secure the next 5 through 12. So we're in a decent situation, a dire situation, and at the end of the day, we still have Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler under contract. Bam is 25 years old. Tyler's 23 years old. We got Jovic coming next year. So this franchise is in a stable place. We're just, as Heat fans, we expect so much. We ask for so much, and we've taken things for granted for so long at times. And I think Heat Twitter is guilty of that. Dolphins Twitter is guilty of that. All Miami Twitter is guilty of that. We have a winning organization, and you can tell because players across the league know this. We just don't tank to tank. This was a very hard season. It's been a hard season. It kind of feels like it happened already, and we're still, a day away from a playing game. But you kind of feel already the situation where you're like, this isn't going in. And we felt this for a while. So, that note, Neil, if we do get eliminated this Friday, if you're available next week, I would love for you to come back, or the week after. We'll program with you so we can talk about what we do. It could be our summer heat edition. What the hell do we do now? So if you can make it, I would love to have you back. Okay, man?
Well, man, I got a trial next week, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
I'll try.
Okay. You keep me updated.
Yeah, I will.
Love you, bro. Thank you so much for being on. A tradition. Well, once again, I didn't. The last part of the show, Bob's gonna kill me. So all the listeners of Fins Talk Sports, now remember to like, subscribe. We do it all for you, from the fans, from fans to the fans, and we appreciate your support throughout the whole network, all our shows, whether it be wrestling, football. Me and Bobby are gonna have a show later on tonight that we couldn't do Monday, scheduling conflicts. But thank you so much for listening. Like always, a tradition of ours. Clutch, any final words?
No, man. You know what? Actually, there's a little message to Miami fans in general, because Miami fans are weird, man. I want to say that you just chill out. I'm mad too. You saw me this entire episode. I'm mad. But we need to fire Spo. We need to fire Pat Riley. We need to, you're talking about firing guys that have been faithful on the team for 15, 20, 25 years, that have done
trade Bam. Bam sucks.
They've done greater things more times than they have done boneheaded things. You're not gonna trade Bam for a rando. You're not gonna trade Bam for picks. You trade Bam for Giannis, whatever, but you're not gonna trade Bam for nothing. You're not gonna trade Jimmy Butler just for picks because you think he's old and overpaid, because he's not. So chill out.
Exactly.
I've noticed that. I've said this on Twitter, and I want to state first of all that I'm a big Tua guy. So people that are fans of Tua are similar to people that are fans of Bam. Sometimes they can see that they can do no wrong, and he can do wrong. Bam has done wrong, but it's not only his fault; it's everybody's fault. But it's okay to share the blame with a bunch of people instead of just pointing one guy out and be like, he needs to be fired, he needs to be gone, screw that guy. It doesn't usually work like that. So that's my little rant. Thank you all.
No, and just now you mentioned Bam, and this is a notation of mine, and people can take it. Bam will never be a number one scorer on a championship team. Bam is your perfect 2 player because he does everything for you. He'll give you 20 points, but he's not going to be your number one option ever offensively. And people have to understand this. Bam's still going to grow. He's going to develop. His shooting is going to get better. But Bam Adebayo is not a de facto offensive scorer of the basketball. And people just have to understand this in your team. You need a number one scorer, which you have in Jimmy or whoever comes along. And Tyler has that gene where he's a scorer, but Bam is Bam. And either we ride with him, and there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be moments of aggression, and there's going to be moments of digression, just like yesterday. I was mad that he wasn't more aggressive, more assertive with it. I can't do anything about that. Spo was mad too. The organization understands this. So you just said it perfectly, man. And we just got to come down, relax, analyze everything we got to do, make a decision, and go with it. And I trust. Out of all the organizations in town, I trust this organization with whatever we do. And they made mistakes, yeah, but there's just time to correct them. And they seem to find a way to correct those mistakes. A season or two late, but Jimmy just had the most productive season of his career, the most efficient season of his career. So we're in good hands. So don't worry, Miami. But like always, for all those listening, on another hump day, another Wednesday at 8 p.m., thank you so much for tuning in with us. God willing, we'll be on next Wednesday. I got to check my basketball schedule because I believe we have a game that day. But I'll get back to you, Miami. Much love, like always, for Neil. Justin, we missed you. We don't know where you are. Juan, I guess something came up with Juan, but we'll be in touch. I'll try to get Juan for next show too. Clutch, my brother, like always, much love. Hasta luego, Miami.